There are films that feel like finished stories. Then there are films that feel like pieces of your own memory. Light, fleeting, slightly blurry around the edges. Before Sunrise belongs to that second group. It doesn't try to overwhelm you. It simply invites you to walk beside two people for a night and notice how easily a life can shift when someone unexpected sits across from you and asks a question you weren't prepared to answer. When you watch Jesse and Celine talk, you're not seeing a scripted romance unfold. You're watching that strange, delicate spark that happens when two minds genuinely meet. Linklater captures something people rarely admit. Some of the most important moments in life don't arrive with fanfare. They happen in passing, on a train, during a layover, in between destinations. Life changes while you think you're waiting for something else. That's part of Linklater's philosophy as a filmmaker. He's obsessed with time, but not the dramatic kind. He's interested in how people fill the hours of their lives, and how much meaning hides inside the ordinary. Before Sunrise feels like him whispering, "Look closely. This is where real life is." The film's entire structure is built around conversation. No plot twists. Just two people slowly revealing themselves. And it's in those revelations that the romance forms. Not through events, but through attention. When someone listens to you, really listens, you feel yourself becoming clearer. You start explaining your own life in a way you've never verbalized. That's what Jesse and Celine give each other. A sudden, almost unnerving clarity. That's why the dialogue feels so intimate. It isn't polished to sound smart. It has tangents, contradictions, unfinished stories. All the things real conversations have when you're talking to understand yourself as much as the other person. This night becomes a small experiment in honesty, and honesty becomes its own kind of seduction. One of the quiet truths Linklater gets so right is that connection doesn't require drama. It requires curiosity. Most love stories are about what characters do. Before Sunrise is about what they notice, how they react to a shared thought, how a simple question, "Do you believe in reincarnation?" or "What scares you about getting older?" can suddenly feel more intimate than a kiss. And as they walk through Vienna, something subtle happens. The city becomes a reflection of their thoughts. That's another signature of Linklater's worldview. He doesn't treat locations as backdrops. He treats them as mirrors. Vienna grows warmer as the two grow closer, like the streets themselves are picking up on the rhythm of their connection. The sculptures, the river, the cafes, they're reminders that the world keeps moving while we're busy figuring ourselves out. And somehow that makes the night feel both personal and universal. Somewhere in these conversations, the film drifts into questions people usually avoid in everyday life. Why do we fear routine? Why does love fade when we stop paying attention? Why does time feel different when you're young? Why do some moments feel like they belong to you long before they're over? The movie doesn't try to answer these things. It simply lets them sit in the air. And that's where the philosophical heart of the film lies, in the understanding that life isn't made of clarity. It's made of attempts. Attempts to explain ourselves. Attempts to be understood. Attempts to connect before the clock runs out. And Linklater is fascinated by that clock. Every scene carries a quiet awareness that the night is temporary. The sunrise isn't just a deadline. It's a reminder of how fragile timing is. You can meet the right person at the wrong moment. You can have the perfect conversation with someone you'll never see again. And somehow, that doesn't make the experience meaningless. It makes it sharper. There's a line of thought the film never states outright, but you feel it growing underneath everything. Nothing in life guarantees permanence, but meaning doesn't depend on permanence. That's a very Linklater idea. Life isn't measured by how long something lasts. Life is measured by the depth of the moments that actually reach you. Jesse and Celine spend only hours together, yet those hours feel fuller than relationships that last years without ever touching the soul. Their night becomes a little pocket of time where both of them get to be the version of themselves they're quietly afraid they're losing. A version that's curious, unguarded, playful, thoughtful. A version that believes connection doesn't need a reason. There's something quietly brave about that. Not dramatic bravery, emotional bravery. The bravery it takes to say, "Here's who I really am," even if you don't stay long enough to see all of it. And that's what makes the ending hit so hard. They don't exchange numbers or addresses. They choose memory over certainty. They protect the purity of the night by refusing to let real life poke holes through it. It's irrational. It's risky, but it's honest. It's also exactly how life often works. We like to think every powerful connection must lead somewhere. But sometimes the most meaningful encounters exist only to show you a piece of yourself you hadn't noticed. Sometimes the point isn't to last. The point is to awaken something. Linklater has always been a filmmaker who understands this. He spent his entire career exploring the idea that time shapes us more than any event ever could. That who you are today is the sum of every conversation that made you think differently, even for a moment. Before Sunrise is one night, but it feels like an entire season of emotional growth compressed into a few hours. And when the film ends, you're left with a strange ache. Not because it's tragic, but because it captures a truth we often pretend doesn't affect us. You will never know which moments are going to matter while they're happening. You only realize it later when the memory refuses to fade. That's why this film stays with people. It's romantic, yes, but more than that, it's a reminder of how alive you feel when you let yourself be seen. When you let someone hear the parts of your mind you usually keep folded away. Before Sunrise shows love in its rawest form. Two souls recognizing each other before they've had time to build defenses. It shows life as a collection of fragile chances, moments that don't wait for you to be ready. And maybe that's the quiet message Linklater leaves us with. Pay attention. Ask questions. Let yourself care, even when you know it might end. The moments that change us rarely announce themselves. You only notice their weight in hindsight, often long after the sun has risen.